The vastness of the Sunderan galaxy stretched before the viewport of the Terran dawn, its spiral arms dotted with countless stars that sparkled like diamonds against the inky blackness of space. Captain Lana Trask stood with her hands clasped behind her back, her posture rigid, as she observed the unknown sector that lay ahead. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, revealing sharp features that rarely softened, even in moments of reprieve. The reflection of distant stars glinted in her steel-gray eyes as she contemplated their mission. "Status report," she commanded, her voice cutting through the quiet hum of the bridge. Lieutenant Jaron, her navigation officer, looked up from his console. "All systems nominal, Captain. We're approaching the uncharted region as planned. No signs of activity on long-range scanners." The Terran Dawn was a scout vessel, one of the first human-designed ships to venture this far into the unexplored regions of the Sunderan galaxy. Despite humanity's 50 years as members of the Galactic Consortium, Earth's representatives were still regarded as newcomers, fragile creatures from a mild planet who had somehow managed to develop space travel despite their biological limitations. In the hierarchy of galactic species, the Deathworlders reigned supreme. Evolved on planets with the harshest conditions imaginable, they possessed biological adaptations that made them nature's perfect predators. Their superior strength, enhanced senses, and natural weaponry had granted them privileged status within the Consortium's rigid social structure. Humans, by comparison, were assigned to the lowest tiers, given menial tasks like mineral extraction or dangerous biological testing that no one else wanted to perform. The prevailing belief was that humans lacked the physical capabilities to compete with species who had evolved in truly hostile environments. Lana knew better. What humanity lacked in natural defenses, they made up for with adaptability, resourcefulness, and a tenacity that had yet to be fully appreciated by the other species. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Commander Vex, her tactical officer, and a 12-year veteran of Earth's space fleet. "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the third planet in the Oryx system." Lana moved to Vex's station, examining the readings with narrowed eyes. "Could be a natural phenomenon, or it could be something else," she straightened. "Alter course to Oryx 5. Let's take a closer look." The Terran Dawn's mission was straightforward: scout the unexplored Western Quadrant, catalog potential resources, and identify possible threats. It was the kind of assignment routinely given to human crews, dangerous with little expectation of significant discoveries. But Lana had built her career on exceeding expectations. "Captain," Communication Officer Talia Reed interrupted, "we're receiving a faint distress signal. It's from another human vessel." This was unexpected. No other human ships were supposed to be in this sector. "Can you clean it up?" Lana asked, frowning. Reed's fingers danced across her console. After a moment, a fragmented message filled the bridge speakers. "Research team. Discovered. Deathworlder activity. Need immediate extraction." Lana's expression hardened. "Pinpoint that signal." "Already done, Captain. It's coming from the surface of Oryx 5. "Prepare a reconnaissance team," Lana ordered. "Full combat loadout. We're going to investigate." Lieutenant Commander Vex looked up from his station. "Captain, our scanners are detecting massive biological signatures on that planet. The readings suggest apex predator life forms, possibly Deathworlder variants." "Noted, Lieutenant Commander. That's why we're going in prepared." Lana's voice was calm but resolute. "Brief the team. We launch in 30 minutes." As she strode toward the shuttle bay, Lana couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into something far more dangerous than a simple rescue mission. After 50 years of being underestimated by the Consortium, humanity had learned to be cautious when venturing into unknown territory. What they didn't know was that Oryx 5 would become the battlefield where humanity's true capabilities would finally be revealed to the galaxy. The shuttle descended through the atmosphere of Oryx 5, buffeted by winds that howled like angry spirits. Through the viewport, Lana observed a landscape that seemed designed for death-jagged mountains with razor-sharp peaks, forests, where trees oozed corrosive fluid and plains dotted with what appeared to be steaming geothermal vents. "Textbook death world," muttered Lieutenant Jaron, his hands steady on the controls despite the turbulence. "Makes Earth look like a vacation resort." "Focus on the landing, Lieutenant," Lana replied, though she silently agreed with his assessment. Oryx 5 was exactly the kind of planet where Deathworlders thrived in an environment so hostile that only the strongest, most vicious species could survive. The shuttle's sensors continued to scan for the source of the distress signal, finally locating it in a valley surrounded by dense, menacing vegetation. As they approached the landing zone, Lana activated the ship-wide comm. "Listen up, team. This is a reconnaissance and possible rescue mission. We locate the source of the distress signal, extract any survivors, and get out. Stay alert and stay together. The biological readings from this planet are off the charts." The shuttle settled on a relatively flat area, its landing strut sinking slightly into the spongy, discolored ground. Lana led the six-person team out, each member equipped with the latest Terran combat exoskeletons, not as imposing as the natural armor of Deathworlders, but providing enhanced strength and protection that helped level the playing field. Atmospheric readings show high levels of sulfur and trace amounts of hallucinogens, reported Science Officer Lynn, studying her handheld scanner. "Filters at maximum." They had barely taken 10 steps from the shuttle when the ground beneath them trembled. Lana raised her fist, signaling the team to halt. "Movement 30 meters ahead," warned Security Chief Maddox, his pulse rifle raised. The vegetation parted, revealing a creature that defied easy description. It stood nearly 4 meters tall with multiple limbs, ending in serrated claws. Its exoskeleton glistened with a substance that appeared to be eating into the ground where it dripped. Most disturbing were its eyes, not the mindless orbs of a simple predator, but filled with calculating intelligence. "That's not a native species," Lynn whispered her scanner, whirring frantically. "That's a Deathworlder. Enhanced. Genetically modified." Before Lana could respond, the creature emitted a high-pitched sound that reverberated through the valley. In response, the vegetation around them began to move, not blown by wind, but animated by purpose. "It's not alone," Lana realized. "It's a trap." With shocking speed, more creatures emerged from hiding places that had perfectly concealed their massive forms. The Terran team found themselves surrounded by at least a dozen Deathworlders, each unique in its horrible design, but united in purpose. Defensive formation. Lana commanded, her voice calm despite the dire situation. The team moved as one, forming a circle with weapons facing outward. The first attack came from above, a winged Deathworlder, diving with talons extended. Maddox tracked it with his rifle and fired a precision burst. The creature shrieked, but didn't fall, the wounds in its hide sealing almost immediately. "Regenerative capabilities," Lynn shouted. "Adjust weapons to maximum disruption." The battle erupted in full force. The team's training showed in their coordinated defense, but the Deathworlders' attacks were relentless and eerily strategic. These weren't mindless beasts, they were executing complex hunting patterns. Lana fired her rifle at a charging creature, targeting its joints, where the exoskeleton appeared thinnest. The shots connected, causing the Deathworlder to stumble, but it recovered quickly and lunged forward. "Captain, behind you," Vex called out. Lana spun just in time to see a tentacle whipping toward her face. She ducked the appendage, missing her by centimeters, and countered with a burst from her sidearm. The creature hissed in pain, but pressed its attack. For 5 minutes, that felt like hours, the team held their position, but it was clear they were outmatched. 2 of her crew were already injured, and their ammunition was running low. "We need to get back to the shuttle," Lana ordered, firing continuously to keep a particularly persistent Deathworlder at bay. They began a fighting retreat, moving as a unit toward the shuttle. They had almost reached it when a massive tremor shook the ground. The shuttle tilted precariously as the earth beneath it split open, revealing a gaping chasm. "Move!" Lana shouted as the shuttle slid into the widening crevice. They watched helplessly as their only means of escape disappeared into the darkness below, followed by an ominous crash and the distant sound of an explosion. The momentary distraction nearly cost them their lives. A Deathworlder lunged from the forest edge, its claws aimed at Lieutenant Jaren. Lana fired, hitting the creature's eye. It reeled back, screeching in pain, giving them a brief opening. "The signal is coming from that direction." Lynn pointed toward a ridge in the distance. 800 meters. Lana made a quick decision. "We head for the signal. Maybe they have shelter or a way to call the ship." With the Deathworlders regrouping behind them, the team ran toward the ridge, their exoskeletons compensating for the planet's slightly higher gravity. The alien forest grew denser as they progressed, the vegetation becoming more aggressive vines that whipped at their armor leaves that secreted acid on contact. "This whole planet is a weapon," Maddox observed grimly, as he brushed a smoking droplet from his shoulder plate. They reached the base of the ridge and discovered a narrow path leading upward. As they climbed, Lana contacted the Terran Dawn. "Captain Trask to Terran Dawn. We've lost the shuttle and are proceeding to the source of the distress signal. Request immediate extraction." The response was broken, filled with static. "Captain, massive energy signatures. Orbit compromised. Hostiles. Cannot approach." Lana's expression darkened. "Understood. We'll find another solution. Trask out." She turned to her team, who looked to her for guidance despite their increasingly desperate situation. "The ship is under attack. We're on our own until we can secure another way off this planet." They continued their ascent, the sounds of pursuit growing more distant. The path led to a concealed entrance in the ridge face, artificial, not natural. A doorway carved into the stone, marked with unfamiliar symbols. Lynn examined the markings. "These are recent, and the technology. It's Terran in origin." The distress signal came from inside, Jaren confirmed, checking his scanner. Lana approached the entrance, weapon ready. "Stay alert. We don't know who or what we'll find in there." The door slid open at their approach, revealing a dimly lit corridor that extended deep into the ridge. They entered cautiously, each step measured senses, heightened by the danger they had already faced. The corridor opened into a larger chamber, filled with equipment, laboratory apparatus, communication devices, and what appeared to be biological containment units. 3 figures stood at the far end, weapons trained on the newcomers. "Identify yourselves," called out a commanding female voice. Lana stepped forward, lowering her weapon slightly, but keeping it ready. "Captain Lana Trask, Terran Scout Ship Dawn. We received your distress signal." The tension in the room shifted. The 3 figures exchanged glances before their apparent leader stepped into the light. She was human, with dark skin and close-cropped hair, her athletic frame suggesting military training despite her civilian attire. "Zara Okafor," she introduced herself. "Former Earth Special Forces." She gestured to her companions. "That's KO, our AI specialist, and Dr. Min, our xenobiologist." Dr. Min was an older Asian man with intelligent eyes and a scientist's observant gaze. He approached Lana with obvious relief. "Thank goodness you came. We've been trapped here for weeks." The third member of their group, KO, looked barely out of his teens. His fingers never stopped moving across a portable computing device. "Though your timing could have been better," he added, glancing up briefly. "We're in the middle of a situation here." Lana holstered her weapon, but maintained her professional demeanor. "What exactly is going on here? This sector is unexplored territory. You're not supposed to be here." Zara and Dr. Min exchanged looks before the scientist spoke. "We're an independent research team. We've been studying the Deathworlders for the past 3 years." "Studying them?" Lieutenant Commander Vex asked incredulously. "Those things nearly tore us apart out there." "Those things are why we're here," Dr. Min replied firmly. "They're not natural Deathworlders. They're engineered hybrids created using advanced genetic manipulation." Lana frowned. "Engineered by whom?" KO looked up from his device. "That's the question, isn't it? Someone's building an army. We tracked unusual biological signatures to this planet and found a full-scale breeding operation. We were gathering evidence when they discovered us. We managed to set up this base in an old mining tunnel, Zara continued. But they've been hunting us ever since. We activated the distress beacon when our supplies started running low. Lana absorbed this information, her tactical mind already analyzing the implications. "Where is your ship?" "Destroyed," Zara replied grimly. "They took it out the day after we landed. Same way they probably took out your shuttle." The situation was worse than Lana had anticipated. Not only were they stranded on a hostile planet, but they had stumbled upon what appeared to be a secret biological weapons program that violated multiple consortium treaties. "The Terran Dawn is under attack in orbit," Lana informed them. "Communications are spotty at best. We need to find a way to contact them and arrange extraction." Dr. Min moved to a cluttered workstation. "We might be able to help with that. We've been working on a way to disrupt the Deathworlders' communication network. If we can silence their signal, your ship might be able to break through and reach us." "Communication network?" Science Officer Lin asked, intrigued despite their dire circumstances. "These creatures communicate technologically." "Not exactly," Dr. Min replied. "They use a biological communication system, pheromones, subsonic frequencies, and some form of bioelectric signaling. It's remarkably sophisticated, but we've identified patterns we can potentially disrupt." Lana considered this. "If we can disable their coordination, it might give us an opening to reach higher ground and establish contact with the Dawn." "It's not that simple," Zara interjected. "The central node of their network is deep in what we call the Devil's Mouth, a massive cave system about 5 kilometers from here. That's where the Queen resides." "Queen?" Maddox questioned. Keo nodded, without looking up from his work. "That's what we call it. The central controller. It's larger than the others, more intelligent. We think it directs the breeding program." Lana turned to her team. "Officer Lin, work with Dr. Min. I want to know everything about these creatures. Strengths, weaknesses, behaviors. Lieutenant Commander Vex, assess our combined weaponry and supplies. Lieutenant Jaren, see if you can boost our communication equipment with whatever they have here." She then addressed Zara directly. "I need detailed maps of the surrounding terrain, especially the route to this Devil's Mouth." Zara nodded, a hint of respect in her eyes. "You're planning an assault." "I'm planning our survival," Lana corrected. "And if these creatures are being weaponized in violation of consortium law, then we have a duty to gather evidence, and if possible neutralize the threat." As the two teams integrated and began working on their assigned tasks, Lana couldn't help but notice the fundamental differences in their approaches. Her military team operated with disciplined efficiency, while the research group showed the creative flexibility of those accustomed to working outside formal structures. Dr. Min, in particular, seemed to approach problems with an academic's curiosity rather than a soldier's pragmatism. When he showed Lin his findings on the Deathworlders' biology, his enthusiasm bordered on admiration. "Their adaptive capabilities are extraordinary," he explained, displaying complex genetic sequences on a portable screen. "They can incorporate useful traits from prey species directly into their own genome. It's like nothing we've ever seen." Lin examined the data with professional interest. "This could explain their regenerative abilities. But every organism has weaknesses. What are theirs?" Dr. Min smiled slightly. "That's where humanity has the advantage. We've identified an enzyme present in human blood that disrupts their cellular cohesion. It essentially prevents them from assimilating new genetic material." "You're saying human blood is toxic to them?" Lana asked, joining their conversation. "Not toxic exactly," Dr. Min clarified. "More like disruptive. It interferes with their most significant evolutionary advantage. We've been developing a compound based on this enzyme. In theory, it could temporarily neutralize their regenerative capabilities." Lana's tactical mind immediately saw the potential. "Could this compound be weaponized?" Dr. Min hesitated, discomfort evident in his expression. "Captain, I'm a scientist, not a weapons developer. This research was meant to further our understanding of—" "With all due respect, Doctor," Lana interrupted. Those creatures out there aren't research subjects anymore. They're actively trying to kill us. If your enzyme can give us an edge, we need to use it. Zara, who had been listening nearby, stepped forward. She's right, Min. We've been observing and documenting for weeks. That's not going to get us off this planet alive. A tense silence filled the room. The fundamental conflict between military pragmatism and scientific ethics was clear. Lana prioritized mission success and crew safety, while Dr. Min valued knowledge and seemed reluctant to weaponize his discoveries. Finally, Dr. Min sighed. I'll need equipment from our secondary lab. It's in a cave about 1 kilometer from here. I couldn't bring everything when we relocated. Is the route secure? Lana asked Zara. As secure as anything on this planet. We've mapped the Deathworlders' patrol patterns. There's a window between their biorhythmic cycles when movement is safest. Lana made a decision. Dr. Min, you'll go with Lieutenant Commander Vex and Maddox to retrieve what you need. Zara, you'll guide them. The rest of us will fortify this position and continue working on communications. Zara nodded, already checking her weapon. That window opens in 20 minutes. We should prepare. As they gathered their equipment, Lana pulled Vex aside. Keep an eye on the doctor. His research is valuable, but our survival is the priority. If the situation deteriorates, get back here immediately. Understood, Captain, Vex replied, his expression solemn. Dr. Min overheard this exchange and approached Lana after Vex moved away. Captain, I understand your concerns, but I'm not naive. I've spent 3 years studying these creatures. I know what they're capable of. Lana met his gaze directly. Then you understand what's at stake. We need every advantage we can get. Yes, he agreed quietly. But remember, these creatures were engineered. Someone created them for a purpose. Destroying them won't solve the larger problem. One crisis at a time, Dr. Lana replied. First we survive. Then we worry about who's behind this. As the retrieval team prepared to depart, Ko approached Lana with his computing device. Captain, you should see this. I've been analyzing the communication patterns between the Deathworlders, and there's something odd. He displayed a complex series of waveforms on his screen. These signals originate from orbit. Whatever's controlling these creatures, it isn't just the queen in the devil's mouth. There's something else directing the operation from above. The ship attacking the Dawn, Lana realized. It's all connected. Ko nodded. And there's more. Based on the signal patterns, they're preparing for something big. Some kind of mass deployment. This new information changed everything. If these engineered Deathworlders were being prepared for deployment, it could threaten multiple worlds, potentially even Earth. Can you intercept any specific details, targets, timelines? The signals are encrypted, but I'm working on it, Ko replied. Give me time. Time is precisely what we don't have, Lana said grimly. She activated her comm unit. Vex, be advised, the situation is more complex than we thought. The creatures may be preparing for deployment off-planet. Exercise extreme caution. Vex's acknowledgement came through, tinged with static. Understood, Captain. We're moving out now. As the retrieval team disappeared into the alien landscape, Lana turned her attention to the remaining members of both groups. Our mission just expanded. We're no longer simply looking for extraction. We need to gather concrete evidence of what's happening here, and if possible, disrupt their operation. Lin looked concerned. Captain, with our limited resources, we adapt, Lana stated firmly. That's what humans do best. She turned to Ko. Continue working on decrypting those signals. I want to know what they're planning. The young tech specialist nodded a determined expression, replacing his usual casual demeanor. On it. Outside the safety of their hidden base, the retrieval team moved cautiously through the hostile terrain of Oryx 5. Vex took point, his weapon ready, while Maddox covered their rear. Dr. Min and Zara walked between them, navigating through a landscape that seemed designed to eradicate any living thing that dared traverse it. Stay on the blue stone patches, Zara advised quietly. The red soil contains microorganisms that can eat through boot material in minutes. They followed a winding path through what appeared to be a forest, though the trees resembled nothing found on Earth. Twisted columns of fibrous material reached toward the sky, occasionally pulsing with internal fluids. The air was thick with spores that drifted like malevolent snowflakes. 200 meters to the secondary lab. Dr. Min reported checking a handheld device. "We should be approaching the acid pools soon." "Acid pools," Maddox muttered. "Wonderful." As if summoned by his words, they crested a small rise to find a series of bubbling depressions filled with a viscous liquid that occasionally shot jets of steam into the air. "The heat signatures mask our movement from the Deathworlders' thermal sensing," Zara explained. "We need to skirt the edge, staying in the steam clouds when possible." They began their careful navigation around the pools, the ground becoming increasingly treacherous. A misstep here would mean an excruciating death. "How did you ever establish a lab in this environment?" Vex asked Dr. Min, as they paused behind a particularly large steam vent. "With great difficulty," the scientist replied, wiping caustic condensation from his protective visor. "But necessity drives innovation. We've learned more about xenobiology in 3 years here than Earth scientists discovered in 20 years of controlled studies." A sudden movement to their left caused all four to freeze. Through the steam, they glimpsed a massive shape moving parallel to their position, a Deathworlder on patrol, its armored hide glistening with acidic secretions. "Don't move," Zara whispered. "Its primary sensing is motion-based in this environment." They remained perfectly still as the creature paused, its head swiveling in their direction. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed to stare directly at them through the curtain of steam. Then, apparently satisfied that no prey was present, it continued its patrol and disappeared into the toxic forest. "That was too close," Maddox breathed once the creature was gone. They resumed their journey, moving with even greater caution. After navigating the acid pools, they came upon what appeared to be an artificial structure embedded in the side of a cliff, a metal door incongruously modern against the primeval landscape. The lab, Dr. Min, confirmed approaching a concealed panel. He entered a complex sequence, and the door slid open with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Inside, the contrast was striking. Clean, organized scientific equipment filled the small space, a haven of human ingenuity amid the chaos of RX-5. Dr. Min moved quickly, selecting specific containers and instruments. "I need the centrifuge samples from the cold storage," he told Zara, who nodded, and moved to a sealed compartment at the back of the lab. As they gathered the necessary equipment, Vex explored the lab, his military training prompting him to assess both tactical advantages and potential threats. On a workbench, he discovered a series of biological samples, preserved specimens of what appeared to be Deathworlder tissue. "You've been collecting quite a lot of data," he observed, examining a container, holding what looked like a serrated claw the size of his forearm. "It's why we came," Dr. Min replied, without looking up from his work. "The consortium restricts human access to Deathworlder research. They claim it's for our protection, but it's really about maintaining their technological advantage." Vex raised an eyebrow. "So this is an unauthorized research expedition?" "This is scientific inquiry," Dr. Min corrected firmly. "Knowledge shouldn't be restricted based on species prejudice." Further conversation was interrupted by a loud crash from outside the lab. All four froze, weapons instantly raised. "That wasn't natural," Zara whispered, moving silently to a small viewing port beside the door. Through it, they could see a group of Deathworlders converging on the lab entrance. Unlike the solitary patrol they had encountered earlier, these moved with clear purpose and coordination. Most disturbing was the equipment they carried, devices that were distinctly non-biological in origin. "They're using technology," Maddox observed in disbelief. "Deathworlders don't use tools. They evolve natural weapons." "These aren't natural Deathworlders," Dr. Min reminded him grimly. "They've been engineered, and apparently, they've been taught." "We need to move," Vex decided, assessing their increasingly dangerous situation. Is there another way out? Zara nodded. Emergency tunnel in the back. It leads to a ravine about half a kilometer from here. Doctor, do you have what you need? Vex asked. Dr. Min quickly stuffed several more containers into his pack. This will have to do. They moved to the rear of the lab just as something heavy began pounding on the front door. The reinforced metal held, but the impacts grew stronger with each blow. They're using some kind of battering ram, Zara observed as she opened the hidden tunnel entrance. We have maybe 2 minutes before they breach. The tunnel was narrow and damp, forcing them to move single file through the darkness. The sounds of the Deathworlders' assault echoed behind them, growing fainter as they progressed. After several minutes of claustrophobic travel, they emerged into a deep ravine where the alien sun barely penetrated. We can't go back the way we came, Zara stated, examining a portable mapping device. They'll have the lab surrounded by now. Vex considered their options. Can we reach the base from here? Yes, but it's a longer route through territories we haven't fully mapped. A distant roar echoed through the ravine, followed by several more from different directions. They're calling to each other, Dr. Min explained, coordinating the hunt. Vex made a quick decision. We move fast, stay quiet. Doctor, that enzyme you're developing, how quickly can you make it operational once we're back? With the right equipment, a few hours. Then that's our timeline, let's move. They began their perilous journey back, taking an unfamiliar route that led them through some of the most dangerous terrains they had yet encountered. Massive fungi that expelled hallucinogenic spores when approached. Pools of what appeared to be water, but dissolved organic matter on contact. Flying creatures that swarmed anything that disturbed their nesting grounds. Their progress was slowed by the need for constant vigilance and the increasingly frequent signs of Deathworlder activity. At one point, they were forced to hide in a crevice for nearly an hour as a patrol passed less than 10 meters from their position. They're establishing a perimeter, Zara whispered, as they watched the coordinated movements of the creatures. Systematic search patterns, military tactics. Whoever engineered these things is using them as soldiers, Vex concluded. But for what purpose? To challenge the consortium's power structure, Dr. Min suggested. Deathworlders already hold the highest positions. With an army of enhanced specimens, they could consolidate their control completely. Or they could be planning something worse, Maddox added. Directed evolution as a weapon of mass destruction. Release these things on a populated world, let them adapt and conquer. The implications were chilling. If these creatures were deployed against Earth or other human colonies, the death toll would be catastrophic. After the patrol passed, they continued their journey each step, bringing them closer to their hidden base, but also deeper into territory, clearly controlled by the Deathworlders. The landscape became increasingly dominated by strange biological structures, not natural formations but constructions that served some unknown purpose. They're building something, Dr. Min observed, pausing to examine a pulsating column that appeared to be processing the surrounding vegetation, terraforming the environment to suit their specific needs. A sudden explosion in the distance caught their attention, a plume of smoke rising above the alien forest in the direction of their base. Captain Trask, Vex, tried his comm unit, receiving only static in response. Communications are still being jammed. We need to hurry, Zara urged, already moving toward the smoke. Their pace increased, despite the danger's concern for their companions, overriding caution. As they approached the base location, the sounds of conflict grew louder. Energy weapons discharged the roars of Deathworlders and the distinctive crack of Terran firearms. They crested a ridge to find a scene of chaos. The entrance to their hidden base was under full assault by a group of Deathworlders, while Lana and the others had established defensive positions in the surrounding terrain. The battle was intense, with neither side gaining a clear advantage. We need to create a diversion, Vex decided, assessing the tactical situation. Draw enough of them away to allow the others to regroup. Dr. Min reached into his pack and withdrew a small device. This might help. It's a pheromone synthesizer designed to mimic the Deathworlders' distress signals. It should confuse them long enough for us to make an impact. Will it work? Maddox asked skeptically. In theory, the scientist admitted. We haven't had a chance to test it in a combat situation. Vex nodded. It's worth trying. Activate it on my signal, then we hit them from the flank with everything we've got. They moved into position using the cover of the ridge to approach undetected. When they were in optimal firing range, Vex gave the signal. Dr. Min activated the device, which emitted a subsonic pulse, combined with a chemical release that quickly dispersed into the air. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Several of the Deathworlders stopped their attack, turning in apparent confusion. Some began fighting among themselves, while others retreated from the engagement area. Now, Vex commanded, opening fire on the disorganized creatures. The surprise attack from the flank created the diversion they needed. Lana, spotting the opportunity, led her team in a coordinated counterattack that drove the remaining Deathworlders back from the base entrance. In the chaos, Vex's team managed to rejoin Lana's group, retreating together into the relative safety of the hidden base. Once inside, emergency seals were activated, temporarily securing their position. Report, Lana demanded, as medical attention was provided to several injured team members. The lab was compromised, Vex explained. But we retrieved the necessary equipment. Dr. Min believes he can synthesize the enzyme weapon within a few hours. Lana nodded, her expression grim. The situation has deteriorated. While you were gone, KO decrypted part of the Deathworlders' communication signals. They're planning to attack a consortium mining operation in the Teleris system. It's a human facility. A test run. Dr. Min realized already, setting up his equipment in a corner of the base. They want to see how effective their creations are against human targets before expanding the operation. Exactly, Lana confirmed. And we have less than 12 hours before their transport vessels arrive to collect the specimens. The implications were clear to everyone present. If these engineered Deathworlders were deployed against the mining facility, hundreds of humans would die, and the creatures would incorporate human genetic material into their own, becoming even more dangerous. We need to stop them here, Lana stated firmly. Prevent the transport from collecting its cargo. How? Lin asked. The Terran Dawn is under attack in orbit. Our shuttle is destroyed, and we're outnumbered at least 20-1. By striking at the source, Lana replied. The Devil's Mouth, the central control node. If we can neutralize the Queen, it might disrupt the entire operation long enough for reinforcements to arrive. That's a suicide mission, Zara pointed out, though her tone suggested she wasn't opposed to the idea. The Devil's Mouth is the most heavily defended location on the planet, which is why they won't expect a direct assault, Lana countered. Dr. Min, how quickly can you have the enzyme weapon ready? The scientist looked up from his work. The basic compound will be synthesized within 2 hours. But delivery is another problem. We don't have enough material to create a widespread dispersal. What about a targeted delivery? Lana asked. Something that could affect the Queen directly. Dr. Min considered this. That might work. I could create a highly concentrated dose designed for direct injection or proximity detonation. Like a biological mine, Maddox suggested. Precisely, the scientist agreed. But someone would need to get very close to the Queen to deploy it. Lana turned to KO. Can you use their communication network against them? Create a distraction or false commands? The young tech specialist nodded thoughtfully. Maybe. I've been studying their signal patterns. If Dr. Min's pheromone synthesizer works on a larger scale, I might be able to combine it with a digital intrusion, confuse both their biological and technological systems simultaneously. Good, Lana decided. We have the beginnings of a plan. Dr. Min, concentrate on creating your enzyme weapon. Keo, work on the communications disruption. Zara, I need detailed maps of the Devil's Mouth and all approaches. As the group dispersed to their assignments, Lana pulled Vex aside. What's your assessment of our chances? The lieutenant commander regarded her steadily. Minimal, but better than doing nothing and waiting for those creatures to be deployed against our people. Lana nodded. It wasn't the answer she wanted, but it was the honest one. Prepare the team. We leave in 3 hours. While Dr. Min worked on his enzyme weapon, the others prepared for what might be their final mission. Equipment was checked. Weapons were modified based on their experiences against the Deathworlders, and tactical plans were formulated using Zara's knowledge of the terrain. Lana studied the maps of the Devil's Mouth with intense focus. The cave system was massive with multiple entrances and chambers interconnected in a complex network. At its center lay what Zara's team had identified as the Queen's Chamber, a large cavern surrounded by smaller spaces where the most recently engineered specimens were kept until ready for deployment. The main entrance is heavily guarded, Zara explained, pointing to a marked location on the map. But there's a secondary access point here through an underground river that feeds into the lower chambers. It's hazardous. The water contains parasitic organisms, but it's minimally defended. That's our entry point, Lana decided. A small team can infiltrate while a larger force creates a diversion at the main entrance. The river passage is narrow, Zara cautioned. Only 2 people can navigate it effectively. Lana considered this constraint. Then 2 it is. You know the terrain better than anyone. You'll guide me through the river passage while the others engage at the main entrance. Zara raised an eyebrow. You're leading the infiltration personally. It's my responsibility, Lana stated simply. Their planning was interrupted by Dr. Min, who approached with a small case containing several vial-like devices. The enzyme weapons are ready. I've created 5 delivery mechanisms, 4 proximity charges, and 1 injection device for direct application. He opened the case to reveal the devices, sleek metallic cylinders, with simple activation mechanisms. The proximity charges have a 5-meter effective radius. The injection device must make direct contact with the target. Range limitations, Lana noted. We'll need to get close. Unfortunately, yes, Dr. Min confirmed. The enzyme's molecular structure breaks down quickly when dispersed. Direct application is the only reliable method. Lana accepted the constraints. In her experience, plans rarely survived first contact with the enemy anyway. Adaptability was the key to survival. 3 teams, she decided. Vex will lead the main assault group, create maximum disruption at the primary entrance. Lynn Maddox and Jaren will form a secondary team deploying charges at strategic points to further confuse the Deathworlders' coordination. Zara and I will infiltrate through the river passage and target the Queen directly. What about us? Ko asked, gesturing to himself and Dr. Min. You'll coordinate from here, Lana explained. Maintain communication links and continue working on disrupting their network. If we fail, you're our backup plan. Send all the data you've collected to the Terran Dawn and ensure the consortium knows what happened here. The stark reality of their mission settled over the group. The likelihood of success was minimal, but the consequences of failure were too severe to accept without trying. Get some rest, Lana ordered. We move out in 2 hours. As the others prepared, Dr. Min approached Lana privately. Captain, there's something you should know about the enzyme weapon. His serious tone caught her attention. What is it? The concentrated formula is extremely potent. When it disrupts the Deathworlders' cellular cohesion, the reaction is violent. Anyone within the immediate vicinity of a primary target will be exposed to hazardous biochemical release. Lana understood the implication. You're saying the person who delivers the injection device may not survive. Dr. Min nodded solemnly. I've incorporated some protective measures into the delivery mechanism, but they're minimal at best. This was developed as a research tool, not a weapon. I understand, Lana replied, her resolve unchanged. Thank you for telling me. 2 hours later, the 3 teams were ready to move out. Each member carried modified weapons based on their earlier encounters with the Deathworlders. The proximity charges were distributed among Lynn's team, while Lana secured the injection device in a protected compartment of her combat exoskeleton. Communications check, Lana ordered as they prepared to depart. Assault team ready, Vex confirmed. Secondary team standing by, Lynn reported. Base operations online. Ko added from his position at the communications array. Lana surveyed her team, a mix of military personnel and civilian specialists, all preparing to risk their lives to prevent a greater catastrophe. Despite their differences, they had come together with a common purpose. "Remember," she told them, "our primary objective is to neutralize the Queen and disrupt the Deathworlder deployment. If the situation becomes untenable, fall back to Extraction Point Charlie. The Terran Dawn will attempt recovery at 0600 hours, regardless of our status." With final preparations complete, the teams moved out into the hostile landscape of Oryx 5. The planet seemed even more dangerous now, as if sensing their intentions. The vegetation was more active, the atmospheric conditions more extreme, and the presence of patrolling Deathworlders more frequent. They separated at a predetermined junction, each team taking different routes toward the Devil's Mouth. Lana and Zara headed toward the underground river, moving swiftly but cautiously through terrain that became increasingly treacherous. "The river entrance is just ahead," Zara informed Lana as they descended into a ravine where the sound of rushing water echoed against stone walls. "Once we're in, there's no turning back until we reach the inner chambers." Lana checked her equipment one final time. "How long is the passage?" "About a kilometer. Parts are submerged, so we'll need rebreathers. The current is strong, but navigable with the exoskeleton's enhanced strength." They reached the river, a surging flow of dark water that disappeared into a narrow opening in the ravine wall. Even from a distance, Lana could see that the water wasn't natural. It moved with an almost deliberate pattern, and occasional flashes of bioluminescence revealed the presence of the parasitic organisms Zara had mentioned. "Those parasites?" Lana asked, as they prepared their rebreathers. "How dangerous are they?" "They attach to organic material and attempt to burrow through it to reach the bloodstream," Zara explained matter-of-factly. "Your exoskeleton will provide some protection, but keep your exposure minimal." With that less than reassuring information, they entered the water. The current immediately grabbed them, pulling them toward the narrow opening. Lana activated her exoskeleton's enhanced strength mode, using it to control her movement as they were swept into the darkness of the passage. The underwater journey was a nightmare of sensory deprivation, punctuated by moments of acute danger. Their helmet lights revealed glimpses of the passage, a tunnel that twisted and turned, occasionally narrowing to gaps barely wide enough for them to pass through. The parasitic organisms swarmed around them, attracted to their presence, bouncing off their protective gear in their attempts to find entry points. After what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 15 minutes, the passage widened and the current slowed. They emerged into a partially submerged cavern where they could stand in water that reached their waists. "We're inside the outer perimeter," Zara whispered, removing her rebreather. "The Queen's chamber is still half a kilometer deeper, but we can move on foot from here." Lana removed her own breathing apparatus, taking a moment to assess their surroundings. The cavern was illuminated by a biological light source fungi that grew along the walls, emitting a pale blue glow. The air was warm and thick with moisture, carrying unfamiliar scents that her exoskeleton's filters couldn't completely neutralize. "Status check," she said quietly into her comm unit. Vex's response came through with surprising clarity. "Assault team in position. No contact yet. Awaiting your signal." "Secondary team ready," Lin reported. "Charges primed." "Base monitoring all channels," Ko added. "I've identified the main communication frequencies. Ready to initiate disruption on your mark." Everything was in place. Lana nodded to Zara, and they began moving deeper into the cave system, following a path that gradually rose out of the water and into dry tunnels. These passages showed signs of artificial modification, smoothed walls, support structures integrating biological and technological elements, and occasionally what appeared to be monitoring devices. "They're more advanced than we thought," Lana observed quietly, as they passed a particularly sophisticated sensor array. "The Queen is intelligent," Zara replied. "More so than any Deathworlder we've documented. It learns and adapts at an accelerated rate. They proceeded cautiously, avoiding the main passages where Deathworlder activity was highest. Zara's knowledge of the cave system proved invaluable, guiding them through maintenance tunnels and natural formations that bypassed heavily trafficked areas. After 30 minutes of careful progress, they reached a vantage point overlooking a massive central chamber, the Queen's domain. What Lana saw there confirmed their worst fears and exceeded them. The chamber was a combination of biological hatchery and technological launch facility. Pods containing developing Deathworlder specimens lined the walls, while a central platform held what could only be described as transport containers, designed to safely house the creatures during space travel. Most disturbing was the Queen itself. Unlike the other Deathworlders they had encountered, the Queen was partially integrated with the chamber's technology. Massive in size, at least 10 meters in length, its body was a horrifying combination of evolved biological weaponry and cybernetic enhancements. Multiple limbs ended in both natural weapons and technological tools. Its brain case was enlarged and reinforced with what appeared to be computational hardware. "It's a cyborg," Lana whispered in disbelief. "Someone hasn't just been breeding these creatures, they've been technologically augmenting them." "This goes beyond anything we imagined," Zara agreed, her usual confidence momentarily shaken by the sight. "That thing isn't just coordinating the others, it's actively directing their evolution." Surrounding the Queen were several dozen mature Deathworlders, each seemingly assigned to specific tasks in the chamber. Some tended to the developing specimens, others operated the technological systems, and a significant number stood guard at strategic points. "We can't get close enough for the injection device," Lana realized, assessing the layout. "There are too many guards." "We need a bigger distraction than planned," Zara concluded. Lana activated her comm unit. "All teams, change of plans. We're initiating Phase 1 and 2 simultaneously. Maximum disruption." Vex acknowledged immediately. "Understood, Captain. Commencing assault." Within moments, the sounds of battle echoed through the cave system as the assault team engaged at the main entrance. Explosions and weapons fire created a chaotic backdrop that immediately drew the attention of many guards in the Queen's chamber. "Lynn, deploy your charges at the secondary entrances now," Lana ordered. "Executing," came the terse reply. More explosions followed, strategically placed to create the impression of a much larger attacking force. The Queen responded immediately, its massive form shifting as it issued commands to its subordinates. Most of the guards rushed from the chamber toward the perceived threats, leaving only a minimal defensive presence around the Queen itself. "KO, initiate communication disruption," Lana commanded. "Disruption active," the young specialist confirmed. "Their network is experiencing significant interference." The effect in the chamber was immediate and dramatic. The remaining Deathworlders showed signs of confusion, their coordinated movements becoming erratic. The Queen itself appeared agitated, its cybernetic components pulsing with increased activity as it attempted to re-establish control. "Now's our chance," Lana told Zara. "We need to get to the lower level and approach from behind those processing units." They descended quickly, but cautiously, using the chaos to mask their movements. The path took them through a secondary tunnel that emerged behind a row of biological processing vats, large pulsating structures that seemed to be filtering and recombining genetic material. From this new position, they were less than 20 meters from the Queen, partially concealed by the processing equipment. The massive creature was focused on the disruptions at the cave entrances, its back presented to their position, a tactical vulnerability they hadn't dared hope for. "Cover me," Lana instructed, removing the injection device from its protective compartment. "I'm going to approach from this angle. When I give the signal, create a distraction to draw the remaining guards away from the Queen's right flank." Zara nodded, positioning herself with a clear line of fire toward the chamber's far side. "Ready when you are." Lana moved forward, using every bit of cover available. Her military training and the exoskeleton's enhanced capabilities allowed her to move with surprising stealth, despite the encumbrance of her gear. 15 meters. 10 meters. The Queen, remained focused outward, coordinating its forces against the attacks at the perimeter. At 5 meters distance, Lana paused behind the final piece of cover, a large support column that combined biological and technological elements. She was now close enough to observe the Queen's physiology in disturbing detail. Its skin was a patchwork of natural armor and artificial reinforcement. Cables and tubes connected its nervous system directly to the chamber's control interfaces. Most importantly, she could see vulnerable points where the biological and technological components interfaced potential targets for the enzyme weapon. She gave the signal to Zara, who immediately fired a series of shots at a collection of sensitive equipment on the far side of the chamber. The intentional damage triggered alarms and drew the attention of the remaining guards. The Queen partially turned toward the new disturbance, exposing its flank to Lana's position. It was the opportunity she needed. Lana sprinted forward, enzyme injector held ready. 3 meters. 2. The Queen began to turn, sensing her approach despite the chaos. 1 meter. Lana lunged, driving the injection device toward a vulnerable interface point where cybernetic components met biological tissue. The Queen reacted with shocking speed, one of its secondary limbs sweeping toward her. The blow connected, sending Lana crashing into a nearby console, but not before the injector made contact and delivered its payload. The effect was immediate and horrifying. Where the enzyme entered the Queen's system, its tissue began to destabilize, not simply dissolving, but rejecting the technological components integrated with its biology. The reaction spread rapidly, causing cascading failures across the creature's massive form. The Queen's scream was like nothing Lana had ever heard, a combination of biological agony and electronic distortion that reverberated through the chamber. Its convulsions became violent as it fought against the cellular disruption. "Captain," Zara shouted, providing covering fire as she rushed to Lana's position. "We need to move now." Lana struggled to her feet, pain lancing through her side, where the Queen's blow had connected. Her exoskeleton had absorbed much of the impact, but the force had still been enough to crack several ribs. "The reaction's spreading faster than expected," she observed, watching as the Queen's cybernetic components began to short-circuit and explode in cascading failure. The remaining Deathworlders in the chamber were reacting to their leader's distress, some rushing to its aid, while others seemed disoriented, their coordinated behavior breaking down as the Queen's control faltered. "All teams, the primary target is neutralized," Lana reported through her comm unit. "Begin withdrawal to extraction point Charlie." They retreated toward the tunnel they had entered through, fighting their way past several confused but still dangerous Deathworlders. Behind them, the Queen's death throes were causing secondary explosions throughout the chamber as its connection to the facility systems corrupted critical control mechanisms. "The whole place is coming down," Zara warned, as they reached the water passage. That thing was integrated into the cave's support systems. Lana winced as pain shot through her injured side. "Can we make it back through the river passage?" "Not with those injuries," Zara assessed quickly. "There's another way maintenance shaft that leads to the surface. It's longer, but doesn't require swimming." They changed direction, moving through increasingly unstable tunnels as tremors shook the cave system. The other teams reported similar conditions throughout the complex: structural failures, confused Deathworlders, and systems malfunctions. After 20 minutes of grueling progress through collapsing passageways, they emerged onto the surface of Oryx 5, half a kilometer from the main entrance to the Devil's Mouth. In the distance, they could see the other teams converging on extraction point Charlie as planned. "Captain Trask to Terran Dawn," Lana transmitted once they were clear of the cave's interference. "Mission accomplished. Primary target neutralized. Requesting immediate extraction." To her surprise, the response was clear and immediate. "Terran Dawn to Captain Trask. Hostiles in orbit have withdrawn following your attack on the surface installation. Dropship inbound to your coordinates. ETA 5 minutes." As they joined the others at the extraction point, Lana found her team battered but intact. Vex sported a nasty gash across his forehead, but was otherwise functional. Lin and her group had successfully deployed all their charges, creating the diversion that had made their approach possible. Dr. Min's enzyme worked exactly as predicted, Lin reported. The secondary targets experienced the same cellular disruption we observed in the lab. Vex approached Lana, noting her injured state. The Queen neutralized, she confirmed. And it was more than we expected. Cybernetically enhanced, directing both the breeding program and the deployment preparations. The sound of engines drew their attention skyward as a Terran Dawn dropship descended through Oryx Sphere's turbulent atmosphere. As they boarded, Lana took one last look at the alien landscape where they had faced death and somehow survived. Back aboard the Terran Dawn, medical attention was provided to the injured, while Lana debriefed with her senior officers and the research team. Dr. Min examined the data they had collected during the mission, his scientific curiosity undiminished despite their ordeal. The integration of biological and technological systems was far beyond anything previously documented. He explained, displaying analysis results on the main screen. This wasn't just an attempt to create better predators. It was a program to develop controllable biological weapons. The question remains, Lana said, wincing slightly, as a medical officer treated her injured ribs. Who was behind it? Who has the resources and knowledge to engineer such creatures and the technology to control them? Kao, who had been analyzing the communication data recovered during their mission, looked up from his workstation. I might have part of the answer. The control signals originated from a vessel that matches known signatures of the Vrexian Dominion. This revelation sent a ripple of concern through the assembled group. The Vrexians were a Deathworlder species who held significant power within the consortium, but had always been suspected of separatist ambitions. If the Vrexians are developing biological weapons in violation of consortium treaties, Vex observed, it could indicate preparations for a larger conflict. Or an attempt to eliminate competition, Zara suggested. The Oryx system is rich in resources that would be valuable to any expanding power, including resources currently being extracted by human mining operations, Lana added, connecting the final pieces. The attack on the Talaris mining facility wasn't just a test run. It was the first step in removing human presence from this sector entirely. The implications were clear. Despite 50 years as members of the Galactic Consortium, humanity was still viewed by some as unwelcome competition rather than valuable allies. The engineered Deathworlders were meant to be the perfect weapon against human expansion, biological threats that would make affected areas uninhabitable for humans, while being controllable by their Vrexian masters. We need to compile all this evidence for presentation to the Consortium Council, Lana decided. Dr. Min, your research will be crucial in demonstrating the nature of the threat. The scientist nodded, though his expression remained troubled. Captain, while I appreciate the importance of this evidence, I'm concerned about how it will be used. This knowledge could lead to new weapons development rather than greater understanding. It will be used to ensure the survival of our species, Lana stated firmly. The Vrexians underestimated us this time. They assumed humans would be easy prey for their engineered predators. They were wrong. Because they don't understand our greatest advantage. Dr. Min realized his perspective shifting as he considered the broader implications of their experience. It's not our technology or our weapons, it's our adaptability. Our capacity to combine different approaches and work together despite our differences. Lana nodded. Exactly. While the Deathworlders rely on evolutionary advantages and the Vrexians on technological control, humanity succeeds through cooperation and innovation. That's what they consistently underestimate. As the Terran Dawn broke orbit and set course for Earth, carrying its vital intelligence about the thwarted attack, Lana reflected on the significance of their discovery. For 50 years, humans had accepted their designated role in the consortium hierarchy, believing the assessment that they were biologically inferior to the Deathworlder species. But on Oryx V, A small team of humans had overcome the galaxy's most feared predators through a combination of military discipline, scientific ingenuity, and technological creativity. The message to the consortium, and particularly to those who sought to eliminate humanity as competition, was clear: Earthlings had arrived on the galactic stage, and they would not be easily removed. Captain, Communications Officer Reed interrupted her thoughts. "We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Fleet Command. They're requesting an immediate report on the situation in the Oryx system." "Inform them that the immediate threat has been neutralized," Lana replied, "but that we've uncovered evidence of a larger conspiracy that threatens all human operations in this sector." As the transmission was sent, Lana gazed out at the stars, streaking past the viewport. She thought about the Queen Deathworlder, a creature of terrifying biological potential, enhanced by advanced technology, and how it had ultimately fallen to a small group of humans, armed with knowledge, creativity, and determination. The Vrexians, and other Deathworlder species, had always believed themselves to be the apex predators of the galaxy, their biological advantages making them naturally superior. But they had failed to recognize a fundamental truth that humanity had learned through millennia of surviving on their own challenging world. True dominance came not from natural weapons or technological control, but from the ability to adapt, to innovate, and to work together in the face of overwhelming odds. The Terran Dawn continued its journey through the depths of space, carrying with it not just evidence of a thwarted attack, but a message that would soon echo throughout the Sunderan galaxy. The galaxy's true apex predators had arrived, and their name was humanity.